Hello movie lovers, story recaps here. Today, I'm going to explain a horror thriller film called Walled In. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. A young girl is seen being caught between walls at the start of the film. Soon later, cement starts to fall on her from all sides. The young child is buried alive and is unable to go. The action then shifts to a decade later. Sam, a young engineer, recently received his degree from college. Her father, who owns a demolition business, surprises her with a job overseeing the destruction of a building in the middle of nowhere at her graduation party. She will eventually become his partner if she is successful. Her first task involves this enormous, extraordinary edifice, an apartment complex that is situated in the middle of nowhere. Joseph Manastraza, an eccentric architect who was enamored with Egyptian style, created the building. Mary, the building's caregiver, welcomes Samantha when she enters the Manastraza complex. She resides with her reclusive son Jimmy. Sam informs Mary that she will be residing in one of the building's apartments. Jimmy carries her belongings to her apartment and goes over the building's regulations. She must keep off the roof and the 8th story since they belong to Manastraza and they are both deadly. She passes a room with Julie's name written on it as she makes her way to her own. She goes to her room after that and takes a bath to wash herself off. She asks Mary how many people still reside in this flat when they later cross paths. Mary responds that there are just 4 occupants. Jimmy and Mary are guarding the structure till the day it is demolished. 2 renters have resisted being evicted despite the fact that all the other tenants have been. Sam gets ready to examine the building's structure the following day. Sam is in charge of calculating how much TNT is required to bring down the structure. She must choose the optimal explosives and rupture spots. She visits a minimarket a few hours later to get some food and beverages. She borrows a computer to research the background of the apartment complex out of curiosity. She learns that a number of people went missing in 1993. It was awful when they were ultimately discovered. Men, women, and children totaling 16 were placed in tiny spaces within the structure that was subsequently filled with liquid concrete. Manastraza, the architect, was one of the casualties. The murders were initially attributed to a construction worker, who was later cleared, leaving the crimes unsolved and the murderer unidentified. Sam returns to the structure and once more notes the finest places for a rupture, but she is taken aback when a man dashes over to her brandishing an axe. It turns out that the man in question is one of the tenants who still resides in the structure and won't vacate. And he is upset about the building's devastation. Jimmy sneakily brings Sam to the 8th floor at night, which is the forbidding floor. Sam learns from Jimmy about the building's architect Manastraza, who passed away inside the wall. She is shown the wall where Manastraza's body was discovered as he enters a room. Because of the cement, his face was almost completely severed when his body was discovered, making it impossible to identify him. Mary, his mother, was the one who eventually recognized him. Jimmy also tells her that Julie, a young child, was among the 16 victims. She was the young girl who first appeared in the movie. She was also the kid Sam had previously seen in the house. Jimmy also shares with her the fact that his father was a victim. The wall where his father was discovered is then shown to her by him. Sam panics in the dark and wounds her leg when the lights go off. Later, Jimmy cleans her wound before starting to touch her thigh. She advises the young man to cease approaching her after it becomes clear that he has feelings for her. Sam notices the glass behind her trembling erratically as she examines herself in the mirror in the evening. When she lifts the mirror, she can see blood oozing from the crack. Sam awakens to find herself stuck behind the wall after being abruptly pulled against it. A few while later, cement starts to fall on her from all sides. She is confined to one place. She awakens from her slumber as she begins to scream. It ends up being a nightmare. She wanders about her flat since she can't sleep anymore. She is startled when something unexpectedly materializes in front of her. Peter, her boyfriend, is the only one who wishes to surprise her. Sam leads Peter on a tour of the apartment. They enter the 8th floor covertly. Sam and her boyfriend stumble into a hidden entrance on the 8th level while investigating the floor. When Sam descends it, she finds a hidden area. Anyone may sneakily watch any of the apartments from this room. Sam discovers Jimmy has been watching her while she is in the bath. Jimmy is humiliated and goes away while she discusses it with Mary. Later that evening, when Peter suggests that Sam should depart the following day, she concurs. Jimmy develops resentment for Peter and Sam as they spend their time with that evening. Sam prepares her belongings to leave the apartment the following morning. She also compiles a report on the quantity of TNT required to demolish this structure. Jimmy apologizes to Sam for watching her before they split ways. Then he gives Sam a present. He gives Sam a copy of the Mallestraza, the structure's architect, logbook. Sam deduces from reading the journal that the building's center must be a big open area. Jimmy walks to the roof to search for a doorway leading into the secret area. But he doesn't come back. Sam and her boyfriend pursue Jimmy to find him. They find a huge shaft in the middle of the structure. In the shaft below, they can hear Jimmy screaming out that he is hurt. Sam has her lover lower her down a rope into the shaft. Everything first proceeds without any issues at all. Peter is then suddenly shot by someone brandishing a sharp object. As a result, Peter bleeds out and passes away in front of his lover, who is horrified to see it. Sam drops to the ground. At the bottom of the shaft, Sam wakes up. Surprisingly, there is a mysterious individual there with her. She was shocked to learn that the enigmatic guy was Mallestraza, the architect, who she had assumed was buried alive inside the wall. It turns out he's been stuck there the entire time. Mallestraza has a radio in his hand. Jimmy's voice can be heard pleading for assistance in the radio tape, hence Sam's earlier voice was really pre-recorded by Jimmy. Jimmy will surely write her a letter from above. The letter states that Jimmy will keep her there until she develops a love for him. After that, Jimmy drives Sam's car into a lake and mails her father the demolition report. All of this is done to give the impression that Sam hasn't come home because she travels with her lover. Mallestraza reveals her a startling revelation when they are back in the shaft. He admits that he was the brains behind the 16 homicides who were found entombed in the wall. Mallestraza thinks that the rituals that were performed during building, which involved burying living victims inside the walls, are what gave ancient Egyptian monuments their extended lifespan. He buried people alive within the walls of his buildings because he wants them to last eternally. He also says that Mary's husband was one among the victims. Mary decides to keep Mallestraza imprisoned in this shaft eternally as a form of retaliation. Mary also duped everyone by mistaking the body of another victim for Mallestraza's. To maintain Mallestraza as her prisoner, she told everyone that falsehood and that Mallestraza had passed away. After making this startling discovery, Jimmy returns to the hole and sends a cassette tape down. After Jimmy requests to see Sam and Mallestraza dance, Mallestraza plays the recording. Mallestraza informs her that they must follow Jimmy's directive. Jimmy is lovely if they do what he says, but if they don't, Jimmy can be quite nasty and creative. Sam thus consents to dance. But she declines Jimmy's invitation to kiss. She is drawn in by Mallestraza, who then forces her to kiss him. After a brief interval, Jimmy commands them to cease and cautions Mallestraza not to touch Sam once more. Jimmy sends down a basket with food, water, and a two-way radio as a thank you for their obedience. In order for them to communicate and remain near, he instructs Sam to keep the radio with her. Mary visits the roof that evening. Sam screams for Mary's assistance right away. Mary is shocked to discover Sam and Mallestraza in the hole. Jimmy is reprimanded by Mary for saying that the space was intended for the architect alone. She understands that Sam must remain in the pit with Mallestraza in order to prevent her from reporting this incident to the authorities, which would result in Mary being taken away and Jimmy being an orphan. After receiving Sam's report, Sam's father and his demolition crew show up at this apartment. They start assembling the explosives. Sam is still trapped with Mallestraza somewhere else. Sam keeps wooing Jimmy in the hopes that he will set her free and protect her from the explosion. Her attempt, however, is fruitless. Mallestraza advises her to conserve her energy after noticing this. Mallestraza then excavates a tomb that he constructed, connecting it to the cement tank with a number of pipelines. Mallestraza believes that if one more person is buried alive when the explosion crew tries to bring this building down, it won't be destroyed. He makes the decision to give his life to save this structure. Sam is then asked to kill him. He thanks her after he falls into his tomb, and the cement starts to fill it when she finally kills him after some tormenting. While they set up and start installing the explosives, Mary is calming Jimmy outside the building. Jimmy starts to have second thoughts as the timer starts to run out. He shouts Sam's name and dashes toward the structure. They must hold the countdown, Sam's father commands. After that, Sam is raised from the hole and transported in an ambulance. Mary is detained since she took part in Mallestraza's abduction. Sam explains that Mallestraza constructed 27 buildings, all of which are still standing at the conclusion of the movie. This housing complex was his masterpiece, and he didn't want it to be destroyed. Even his own life was given up to save the structure. As a result, this building won't be torn down as a mark of respect and will stand as his legacy. And so, the film comes to a close. Don't forget to subscribe for more recaps like this, switch on alerts, and give the channel a thumbs up to help it grow. Thank you for taking the time to watch. Let's meet up the next day for another evaluation.